it's something. I have hair envy with Adam. Let's just
wearing a wig is terrible, right? It's a drag, or it's fine.
That's a.
Oh no, I'm giving him ideas now.
We do watch Dylan form these relationships with his coworkers, and that's something that he wasn't really interested in at the start of the season. He's very kind of focused and keeps his head down and just wants to plug away at the numbers, which I can relate to because it's a very fun computer game that they put on the computer.
If we let this happen to Miss Casey, who's gonna step up when it happens to us?
Now. Goodbye, Marcus.
Wait!
Big fan of both of you. Have to say, Secret Life of Walter Mitty is one of the most underrated films of the last 25 years.
Yes.
So thank you for that.
Thank you. Thanks, man. Thanks.
I'm very excited to talk about this show with both of you. I was a huge fan of season 1. I love how bizarrely dark and surreal it is, and it seems to take a deep dive into a darker place this season. It's more tinged with horror. Ben, you've not really done horror. Outside of things like in The Cable Guy, you haven't really done anything that's as scary as this. What was it like kind of finding that darkness?
Thank you for remembering. No, I mean, it was fun. It was fun tonally to explore, like what you're saying, like the different places we could go with the show. We felt it was really important to not sort of tread water and to try to, just delve into some places that were more interesting to us and hopefully let the show continue to evolve. Because the undercurrent, I think, is pretty dark in the reality of this world. And it's just been, fun to think about where we could go with it. And the making of it over the course of the season has been really, both fun and challenging. And I think that the tone of the show evolves and is constantly sort of, finding itself. I have to say, it's hard to define these things, and it's one of those things like you don't know how far you can go until you push it a little bit, and hopefully that's what we're doing, and then the audience then can hopefully like it or not, but yeah. It's sort of like it's a process where you want to like kind of test it all the time, I think.
And Adam, is there something in any kind of contract with anything you do with Ben that there has to be something with your hair, whether it was the beard in Walter Mitty or your hair? Like the hair is almost a character unto itself. Does that feel like you are Mark when you have that hair?
Let me just tell you something. Ben is obsessed with hair. He loves hair. From the very start, before I even arrived in New York, he was talking to me on the phone about my hair. He's just like, you gotta grow it. Just grow it out.
All right. First of all, Adam has some of the best hair in show business, if not the best hair.
Your hair is great.
My hair is fine. It's serviceable
Oh
after, thanks to help.
Serviceable.
But Adam is amazing. And the beard, yes. I remember Walter Mitty, wasn't there like something you were doing right before? And so we were like trying to time out you growing out the beard.
I didn't have time to grow a beard.
Yeah. And I just feel like the hair that Adam has in the show was important to me because his hair is so identifiable that when we started Severance, that we wanted him to have a look that was, he has the ability to not have to wear a wig and to like do things with his real hair, which is as someone who's worn wigs in movies my whole life in different weird characters. I feel like it's something. I have hair envy with Adam. Let's just
wearing a wig is terrible, right? It's a drag, or it's fine.
That's a.
Oh no, I'm giving him ideas now.
I don't wear a wig in life. But
No, I mean like in a movie.
This is real.
Put it on every. I'm wearing one right now. There's a chin strap under here. Sorry.
Well, I can tell you without a doubt, on JoBlo, I run our list of the best shows of the year. This one's starting in January, already in the top 5 for 2025.
Thank you. Wow.
Phenomenal show. Thank you so much.
Incredible.
And it's been a pleasure talking to you today.
Thanks, man.
Thanks, man.
Appreciate it.
Wish we had more time.
I'm a huge fan of this series. Loved the first season so much and have been waiting to see these new episodes. And I'm happy to say that season 2 is so much better than the first season in every way. all three of you are phenomenal this season, and it feels like these characters in season one, they kind of broke something open. And then this season, the stakes have been raised, the intensity is raised. You all get to swear a lot more to your boss, which is great. But then the stakes from the other side seem to be increased as well. And Britt, I wanted to start with you. Your character seems to have to play multiple sides here more because of what you found out in the first season finale. Was it challenging trying to figure out where you're orienting this character from scene to scene?
Yeah, I think at the end of season one, we see a real war being waged inside of the same person. There's these conflicting forces that are at play. And I tried to come at the Audi, who we have seen much less, with a lot of empathy for the way she was raised inside of this high control group at Lumen, and really thinking about the ways in which she's trapped as well in this family that she was born into, and that it made sense to me that her inner child, her inner rebel in Helly R has really come to light because of the suppression of that high control group. So yeah, parsing out the variables was a real group effort, but also like a real fun puzzle to work on.
And John, you've been in so many amazing performances in your career, so many of my favorites of all time, but I think you have delivered one of the best romantic entanglements in film and television history. It's such a beautiful sequence between your character and Christopher Walken's character. What was it like between the two of you kind of inhabiting that relationship?
I think a lot has to do with our relationship. We've worked so many times together. I've directed him a bunch of times. We've acted together. We really like each other, and it's so easy to care for the other person because it's real. I mean, I love Chris, and he's a very wonderful performer. He keeps you on your toes. And when Ben asked me to be on the show, I was very interested in that relationship. And he said, "Who do you think it could be?" And I said, immediately, I said, Chris, because we laugh so much and we have such a wonderful time together. And then with the obstacles that are built into the show, I thought there was something innately that could be beautiful, because you rarely see people connecting, when they're in a more mature age. And I thought, wow, this is something that could be really, great to explore. And it was always surprising to do it. And Chris is a person, as Britt was just talking about the child inside of you, who really still has that with all this experience, life experience and work experience. He really has that, and we have that, and he brings that out in you, and that's, it's that's a special situation that you're in. It's what goes on between us. So thank you.
And there's so many great relationships between many of these characters. And Zach, I think Dylan kind of got a little bit of the short end of the stick in season one, and kind of was watching everybody else develop these things and didn't get that. And this season, there's so much more for Dylan to do. Did you feel like there was more that you had to build around who this character was in these new episodes?
Yeah, I think in season one, we do watch Dylan form these relationships with his coworkers, and that's something that he wasn't really interested in at the start of the season. He's very kind of focused and keeps his head down and just wants to plug away at the numbers, which I can relate to because it's a very fun computer game that they put on the computer. But this season, we do get to learn more about him, and he gets to open up, and it was fun seeing how his new relationships affects his other relationships, and affects how he sees himself, and affects what he wants for himself in his innie self.
And I think that the first season, there's obviously a sense of humor. There's some comedy throughout all of these episodes, but this season feels a lot more like it's tinged with horror and some psychological things that are going on there. Do you feel like this is a scary show? Britt, I want to start with you. Do you think this is a scary show, or is this something that is just surreally funny, or is it both?
I bet you could ask 100 people and they would say something different. I think what is thrilling to me about the show is like the interiority of each of these characters and what they're going through psychologically. In season 1, they're really cracking open that question of identity, and specifically like, who am I in relationship to this work that we're doing, and does that work even have any meaning? And then I think once they've cracked that open, they're open. Right? Their hearts are more open, and they start having these connections within the office and then also to who they are on the outside. And that's, I think, where the real thrill is like coming to that edge of like, who am I and how do I show up for the people I love?
Everybody seems to have their own voice, their natural voice. Where did you find Irving's voice? Where did that come from? Because it's very unique.
I was talking to various people, for research, and sort of stumbled upon, one particular person, and it also was coming out of the script. I thought there was a formality to it, so I just wanted to line it up with the right, with the right person. But I'm glad you're aware of that, so thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time today. Phenomenal show. Can't wait for everybody to check it out.
Okay.
Thank you for your questions.
Thank you.
My name is Miss Huang. It's my first day here as deputy manager. Mark W.
Why are you a child?
Because of when I was born.
Absolutely love this show. Been a fan since the very beginning.
Yeah.
One of my review quotes was in the trailer for the first season. So been waiting with bated breath for this season, and I am so excited at how good it is. The question I have for you, did you know from the beginning where this story was going to be headed? Is there always been an end game, or has that kind of adapted with this second season, all the buzz from the first season?
Yeah, I would say the end game has not really changed. I've always had an idea, and it's like I brought it up with Ben Stiller the very first time we met for kind of a last scene, and it's changed a little bit. Like, we've tweaked some of the context of it over the course of making the show, but for the most part, it's kind of the North Star has remained in the North for us, and we, but the question of how to get there has always, that's always by design been a little looser, because I actually think that it's, you can plan a show too little, but you can also plan a show too much. And you want to be able to be adaptable if you find something on the show that you fall in love with that you didn't expect to. And, maybe a character that you thought was going to be a one-off or a side character, all of a sudden they feel integral, where you can't make the show without them. And they have to be woven into the narrative. And so there's a little bit of thinking on your feet involved with it, but that's part of the fun.
The first season clearly had this surreal sense of humor that was blended with the psychological elements of it. Season 2 feels like it's starting to push a little bit more into horror elements. There's some places where I'm watching it, I'm like, these are some images that are going to stick with me after finishing these episodes. Was there ever an intention from a writing perspective that this was going to push really hard into one genre or another?
I think we wanted to explore a darker version of the show with this, and part of that it's just the Empire Strikes Back thing. I mean, chapter two should go a little harder, but it also just kind of naturally evolved from what happened at the end of season 1, because I think you can't punch a company like Lumen in the nose and not expect to get hit back. And with Lumen, of course, it's not going to be a matter of just getting a disciplinary write-up. They're a company, and they're a cult, and they're something else altogether that we don't even totally understand yet. And so the characters have opened themselves up to some real peril, and so yeah, it's darker and it's scarier. But I also, I wanted to keep. We all knew it was important to keep an element of the humor too, even if it was less at the forefront than it was in season 1.
There's always the challenge when it comes to marketing, that you want to give viewers an idea of what's going to be in store for them, but you also don't want to spoil anything. And there's a ton of really great moments in these first 6 episodes that I've seen. There's the animation sequence, there's some special appearances, there's episode 4 is just stellar. Was there ever any concern from when you saw the trailer or the marketing that there's maybe too much being revealed, or do you think it was just the right amount?
There was some initial concern from all of us, and it's funny because we worked really closely with the people making the trailer, at every stage of it. But I think initially we were going through and we were trying to make a list of what we could and couldn't put in the trailer, and we got to the end and there was like one thing on the list that we thought we could do, and then we're like, okay, we have to put something in there. So we reconceived it a little bit, where it was like, there are certain elements, images that we can show that hint at these new locations or these new conflicts, but we can show them in such a way that teases it but doesn't really tell the story. So we were, there's all I can say is that for as much as we show in the trailer, that's like 1% of the stuff that we wanted to show or are excited for people to see.
And there's obviously, the future is never certain. I'm sure this is going to be back for another season. Is there kind of a long-term plan for how many seasons you think this will last, or is that going to be kind of seeing how it goes as year by year goes by?
We have a number in mind, for sure. It's not totally set in stone. I think, we love this show too much to cut it off before it's time. At least on our end, we want the story to unfold at its own pace, organically, and reach its end point, at the right time. But we've sort of gamed it out, and we think we know how long that's going to take.
Well, I can say from what I've seen so far, season 2 is an improvement over season 1, and that's saying something because I love season 1. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for clicking on our video, everybody. If you like what you saw here, please make sure you like the video and subscribe and share with your friends who like this sort of content. JoBlo remains an independent company, and we appreciate all of your support.